with Missouri, coming back, doing the old sweeperoonie on Florida State, always a good thing, and then get ready for another big weekend.
Yeah, for sure. Other things, if you missed it last night, if you were sleeping, in NHL playoffs, the Florida Panthers go up to Toronto and win. And then the Seattle Kraken beat JC's one of his many hockey teams, the Dallas Stars. And then in the NBA, the Knicks win, and then the Lakers upset. I guess it's an upset. Hell, I don't know, against the Golden State Warriors. So, got a lot of other stuff to talk about today. But what do you think about your hockey teams going down, JC?
You got to hand it to these Panthers. After 7 games of stress with the Bruins, they take 1 day to travel to Canada and beat a team that's been resting for 4 days in Toronto. I picked Toronto in this series. I'll stay with that. The Panthers, though, should not be taking lightly anymore. I guess, when you go through the season, the real truth of the matter is just simply making the tournament. And I'm starting to really believe the lack of importance in regular seasons as it relates to anything tangent at the end of the year. We saw what the record-setting season to the Boston Bruins now means. Very little. And I think when you got a team like the Florida Panthers, who are 43 points behind Boston, barely made the playoffs, you look for these Cinderellas, and these guys are for real, man. So I got to tip my cap finally to those guys down there in Fort Lauderdale. They have survived, and they were impressive last night. As far as Seattle goes, it's hard to explain what that's all about in their second year of existence. But Dallas allowed 3 goals in 52 seconds of the first period and could not overcome that. Tied the game, lost it in overtime. Once you get to overtime, it's a coin flip. It really is. So, they go up 1 game in their best of 7 round 2 series, and we've got more coming tonight. I love the playoffs. I love this is really the only time I watch the NBA as well, QB.
Did you have on your Dallas Stars sweater last night?
I had my hat on. I had my Dallas Stars hat on.
Why didn't you not have the jersey on?
Well, I was playing tennis last night, and then I went to the drinking establishment after I lost in tennis to watch hockey and be with my friend.
Bad night for JC.
Well,
you lost on the tennis court. The Stars lost.
Yeah. Well, we had a good night.
Won.
We had a good night at the bar last night. A lot of good friends were there, and we were yucking it up. But yeah, man, I'm taking a lot of L's lately, QB. It's not fun.
Nope. Play better.
Well, QB, I mean, you can sympathize. I mean, what'd you do? 1-9 in your debut as an XFL.
Hey,
I mean,
yeah, it was not fun. You can only control what you can control, and there wasn't a whole lot I could control.
I get it.
Tonight, softball, the semis are rolling into KDC Shoal Presley, so that should be a good matchup there. The Gators get a safety out of the portal yesterday, committed from Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
So there you have that. Let's get to some of these Titanamar texts on the Titanamar text line.
Let's
got
do
a bunch
that.
of them. Yeah, let me read them here if I can get them to load.
I was impressed.
Here we go.
Go ahead. You ready?
This says, this is Tommy in Savannah.
Okay.
He says, Shane and JC, your Monday show reminded me of my favorite trivia question. What 4 schools have produced a U.S. president and a Super Bowl winning QB? I will give you the answer on Friday. I know what schools produced a U.S. president? Well, I know Roger Staubach's one of them, right?
Well, a U.S. president. Well, Roger Staubach went to Navy, QB. And
right. So we had to have some president from Navy, right?
Yeah, but he was never he was never a president. Roger Staubach was never
They're not saying the football player was the president. They're saying the school. There's 4 schools that produced a president and a Super Bowl winning QB.
Well, that's a good guess.
So I was thinking it had to be somebody from one of the academies, right?
It makes sense. Yeah, it would make sense.
Yeah.
So who
I don't have enough time to think about that right now.
Okay. Well,
who went to Navy? I don't know.
I don't either. I mean, hell if I know what president.
I'm sure somebody from Stanford. I'm sure we have a president from Stanford because you got Elway or Jim Plunkett or somebody. But we'll let people. He'll give us the answer on Friday. I don't. My mind ain't thinking real well this morning.
But you brought it. You brought the damn question up. Go ahead. What's the next one?
Chris from Cottondale says, just listen to yesterday's podcast. Hate I missed Buddy spewing nonsense about QB play. I do think Mertz throwing check downs against UK in the stoop zone coverage. He has to be better than what we've had. So Buddy and I had Buddy and I get in these heated arguments. Somebody asked on the Titan our text line yesterday, asked if AR was the greatest Florida quarterback of all time. And I said, he's not even in the top 10.
Come on.
Who would ask? Close.
Who
I don't remember who it was. But, he may end up being the best pro ever. I don't know. But, back to the question here or comment that Chris said, I basically was discussing with Buddy that I firmly believe the Gators win 8 games next year minimum. And I think they will be way more consistent on offense. And so Buddy said, well, we don't need it. Yeah, he'll probably check it down. I was like, no, Buddy, I'm talking about the 15-yard dig route, the 12-yard curl route.
Yeah.
I that's what I'm talking about, consistent play. And I firmly believe he will make those throws. Does that translate to wins? We'll see. But again, I go back to people. I mean, we went 6-7. We've gone 6-7 the last 2 years. Okay.
Yeah, right.
I think they will be better this year. I think they will be a consistent. They may not have splash plays like JC running 20 yards and hurdling a guy, but they're going to be able to complete balls they're supposed to complete. That's just my opinion. People can throw darts at me wherever they want. Okay. I'm just telling you what my eyes tell me.
Right. So hitting those little routes that you say that lead to consistency, does that actually lead to 8 wins in your mind?
Yeah, because I think we'll be better defensively too.
Okay.
I just think
that's fair.
A lot of like I tell people all the time, I have never, and maybe it's because I'm not very talented, JC. I think I'm a very good athlete, but athleticism is being a great athlete. Hang on, let me back up. There's a difference, and I used to argue with strength coaches on every team I played on.
Yeah.
There's a difference between the best athlete and who is athletic. Okay.
Right.
Because I promise you, if we would have had a challenge in every sport on every NFL team I was on, whether we went and played golf, tennis, we played horse basketball, we bowled, we played ping pong, whatever the sport is, I promise you, I would have put every bit of money I had that I would win in every one of those. Okay. But if we were going to go test athleticism about how fast you are, how high you can jump, how much you can bench press, all that stuff. No, there's other guys that are athletic, but being a good athlete is one who is good at everything. Now, do you agree with that definition or not?
No, I think that's exactly right. I do believe that.
Yeah, because I can't tell you the heated arguments in the weight room I'd get in with the strength coach.
You got egos, but man.
Anyway.
You're dealing with egos.
No, it's not egos. It's a different. He thinks about that guy's a great athlete. I'm like, that dude can't do anything but cover a guy and run and tackle. Put a basketball in his hand. Let's see how good of an athlete he is. That's where I'm talking about. So anyway, long story short, I don't think Graham Mertz is probably very athletic, but I bet he's a damn good athlete, and I think he's gonna play really well. I still think they're going to win 8 games, JC. I look at the schedule. There's 2 games on there that I say right now we cannot win.
Right. Well, the season
Georgia and LSU.
Yeah. And with the exception of the last 2 years, a lot of times these games, you win a game you're not supposed to, and maybe you lose a game you're not supposed to also. So anything is possible. Health has a lot to do with it. Depth has a lot to do with it. Quarterback play is one important measuring stick and probably the most important, but so many other things have to go right. You got 11 guys on both sides of the football. QB, we know all this, so I don't need to belabor the point. But, like the Florida Panthers, things are going right for them right now. And a lot of times timing is important in long seasons. With football, you don't have that luxury. If you drop a couple games early, it could spiral out of control the next 9, or it could go the opposite way. LSU lost to Florida State in the first game of the season last year and ended up winning the SEC West because their quarterback finally figured out the offense. So I guess, it's a process. It's a journey. we're going to have to just wait and see. Predictions are useless right now. I don't mind predictions. I think it's part of what we do, and I think it's great. And I don't mind you saying they're going to win 8 games. I think that's a nice number to come out with and put your flag in the ground and hope it's right. But when you go 6 and 7 the last 2 years, you can't expect people not to be somewhat ambivalent over their confidence on the season because they just.
But let me ask you this, because I had a discussion with someone it was yesterday, and again, this has nothing to do with Anthony Richardson. I'm going to take the name off the back of the jersey. Okay. If Anthony Richardson was on this team this year, how many games do you think people would think they were going to win?
Well, I would hope he'd get better, and so I'd say maybe 8, like you said. But
they're only saying that because of what they've seen flashes of, is what I'm saying. Yeah. But again, I really firmly believe they're going to win 8 games. And I have people say, "Well, we would have won more if the defense would have played better, if we wouldn't have dropped passes." Well, every team in America can say that. I mean, passes are dropped all across the country. Okay, bad throws are caught sometimes. So I just think they're going to be better defensively, and they're going to be extremely more consistent on offense. And I think they're going to find ways to win games, and I think they're going to win a minimum of 8. So we'll leave it at that.
And they have to do that because they found ways to lose them last year. And the thing is that games could have gone either way. The South Florida game could have been an L. The LSU game could have been a W. Anything could have happened. It didn't, and it worked out the way it did. But I guess confidence right now, it's more like I need to see it before I believe it right now with this group and this coach. And so that's what the challenge is this year. And I think in year 2 here, he's gonna get better. I can't imagine this team not being better because we said it ad nauseum that last year's roster, in spite of these NFL draft picks, was probably the weakest roster he would be dealing with as coach of the Florida Gators. I got to believe they're improving the roster. So by normal progression, and maybe other folks are doing the same thing, but that's got to translate into a better season and certainly more than 6 wins. So there were a couple games Florida was just completely out of, but there were also a couple games that had things changed and gone a different way. They could have won, and they could have had more than 6 wins. LSU game is one I point out because they had a lead in that game, and they just at home, and then they couldn't take care of defensively. They couldn't get the LSU Tigers off the damn field. It was awful.
Well, we were behind by double digits in that game.
I thought they were up in the first half. Were we not?
No, okay. I don't think so, JC. I remember us being down like 20 in the fourth quarter.
I know, but what about in the first half? I thought the first half we had the lead, but maybe I'm wrong.
We may have. I don't know.
Who cares?
Doesn't matter.
It's over. It's over.
Greg asked, who is the best Gator NFL QB of all time? Andy replies, he'd say Rex. The Chicago media ruined him. He could have had a much better career. I mean, Rex was a damn good player.
Who was the best
I don't know the greatest.
Who was the best pro quarterback that Gators ever produced? Was it Rex? The best pro?
It had to be Rex.
Yeah, I mean,
Rex went to the Super Bowl.
Right. So who else would it have been? I mean, Spurrier never played. He rarely played.
Right.
And
he played. I played about as much as he played.
Right. And so Werfel, he had 7 years, had some moments there with New Orleans, but he wasn't very effective, and neither was Doug Johnson. So I can't think of anyone else other than Grossman. Yeah.
Joseph says on Facebook Live, I agree we'll win 8 games as well, but I also think Billy needs to win at least 8 games or things will get tough for him. Yeah.
Oh, no doubt. That's the nature of the
Rick
job.
Says beat Vandy. Yeah, everybody wants to point to Vandy. I mean, we always had trouble against Vandy, and we lost them this year. We will beat them next year. Trust me.
Yeah, I believe that.
Andy says, Andy, it's a good question by Andy. He goes, how did your undrafted free agent process go with the Bears? Did you have contact with them or other teams prior to the draft? You got to remember, back in those days, nobody had cell phones. So if they wanted to call you, they had to call a damn landline. I was supposed to be the 3rd quarterback taken in about the 3rd or 4th round because we knew that Bledsoe and Rick Meyer were going to be the first 2 quarterbacks. Again, there was like 16 quarterbacks drafted. I didn't get drafted. I lasted longer than all of them except Mark Brunell, who went in the 7th round, lasted 19 years. But yeah, you just basically what happens is when you don't get drafted, multiple teams will call, and you just try to figure out what you think the best situation for you or who gives you the most money. And
yeah,
I got a whopping $3,500 to sign. JC, what do you think about that?
What the boy have times changed? My goodness gracious! I mean,
well, I don't know what free agents get today. I bet they get 25,000 maybe.
Yeah, something.
But I got a whopping 3,500.
3,500. Yeah. Well, I'm sure back in those days you felt pretty fat right then.
No, I didn't. Trust me, I didn't at all. Not at all. Well, yeah, we got a ton of Facebook lives here. Hang on, we got a couple more. Joseph says, y'all forget about the overtime thriller in the swamp with Vandy and Cutler. We were up so big, everyone left. We were having to move from end zone to end zone in overtime to keep the noise going. Yeah. So we've always, I mean, everybody wants to point to the Vandy game. Hell, I don't think Kentucky was very good last year. We lost to them, and everybody wants to make a big deal about that. So,
hey, QB, you know, Florida was up 21-14 in the first half last year against LSU, and then allowed a 24-yard touchdown pass, a 54-yard touchdown pass, and all of a sudden they're down 28-21 at halftime. But they were up. Look, okay. That's not important. The thing is that, you know, I just got to see, you know, I got to see something. And we got excited after that Utah game. Let's be honest. We thought Anthony was going to really develop. It just didn't happen. I think the South Florida game and the Kentucky game really kind of opened our eyes in both that win and loss, because we didn't see the same consistency, as you said, that we saw, at least the same execution that we saw.
Well, if you go back, if you really want to go break it down and go watch Utah, I guarantee you,
yes,
I don't know what they were thinking.
They should have.
Well, they played so much man coverage in that game.
Yeah.
And when you play against teams, and I've always said this, especially at the high school level, because in high school most teams put a really good athlete back at quarterback. Mm-hmm. If you make him read coverages, which means play zone, where you have to throw it into windows and know where to go with it, it causes problems. But if you play a team that's not a great passing team and they play man, you don't have to look off anybody in man coverage. You can stare down your receiver and hope he wins, and then all you got to do is just throw that one guy. Well, in man coverage, if you run everybody off and the quarterback takes off running, JC, there's a lot of room to run. So I think if Utah had to play us again last year, they would not play man 99% of the time. So,
and I agree with that. And you know, listen, they could have scored 2 touchdowns. They just didn't. At the end of the game and at the when they fumbled in the end zone, I guess in the third period. So, but hey, Indianapolis is going to have to show this kid, or this coach in Indianapolis is going to have to show Anthony what to do against zone coverage. I mean, that's what you're saying, correct?
Although a lot of teams don't play zone in the National Football League, but we'll see, because they like to rush the passer and get after you.
So you think
out on the edge.
So do you think Mike? Do you have any confidence that a guy like Mike Vrabel would know what to do if Anthony Richardson was starting for the Colts against the Titans?
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah. So here's the deal. Again, JC, it ain't like Shane Steichen has any secret plays that Bill Belichick doesn't have, or Doug Peterson doesn't have. Everybody has the same. There's nobody in America that doesn't have a football play that somebody else doesn't have. You just got to know how to execute it and when to call it. The key is when to call it. That's the key. That is the key. So we'll see. Like I said, it's a huge story. We talked with JP Shadrick yesterday about the Jags. The Jags are clear favorites to win their division.
I think
I know you're a season ticket holder, so you're very
damn right. You're darn right. I'm excited about this season, but I do know that schedule is not easy out of the division. Out of the division, they've got as hard a schedule as I've seen anybody, and that's because they played division winners from the previous year. That's how the NFL schedules games. They schedule division winners against each other, and they split up home games and whatnot. As a season ticket holder, somewhat concerned on what game Shad's going to move to England, because I don't have any plans on going to England to watch my home game. But I sure hope I get my money back on that ticket. But I won't, so I'll have to sell it to some rugby guy in England. I don't know how they're going to work that. I've never experienced what that's like, but they usually play a game in England, and I hope it's not one of the premier games that are on that schedule. Maybe it'll be maybe the the Houston Texans will go to England to play the Jags for Jacksonville's home game.
There you go. JB says on Facebook Live, the best NFL QBs from UF are Cam Newton and Jacoby Brissett.
Ha! Cam Newton. That's a great. Well, and Jacoby has had some serious playing time. I mean, he's played a lot.
He's made a lot of money. A lot of money.
He has. But he made his hay at NC State, and and I think the same thing with Russell Wilson. He made his money playing for Wisconsin after leaving NC State. So, Cam did the same thing at Auburn, or I should say junior college and then Auburn, paid him to come play for them. So I guess you can say
Chris
that.
Storing Mortgage, they do mortgage lending right, helping home buyers throughout Gainesville and North Central Florida. Call Chris Storing Mortgage today at 352-244-0840. A few more minutes with JC, and then we'll have Scott Carter from FloridaGators.com. All right, JC, it's time for Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's #1 choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte surrounding areas. It's our Peachland Dental. It's a real golf tournament this week. It's at Quail Hollow, damn good golf course.
Oh, yeah.
You picked two fabulous players that nobody had ever heard of last week, John Rahm and Tony Finau.
They won.
Everybody else from the it was good picking on your part. We'll let you pick again.
All right.
Who are you picking for the tourney in Charlotte?
Let's start it off with I'm going to take someone that I usually don't take just because I think he's so due. And on a course like this, I think he'll do well. That's Jordan Spieth.
All right, you're going to take Jordan Spieth, the Texan. My first pick's going to be the Norwegian, Victor Hovland.
You do love that guy. You loved Alex Noren. By the way, I looked at your picks last week. You had Alex Noren. I don't even know if he made the cut in Mexico, but you did go foreign. You're a foreign golfer specialist. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's pretty simple. I like what I saw from Tony last week. I'm going to come back with him. I could easily take John Rahm, but I'm going to wait till the PGA to take him. So I'm going to go again with Tony Finau coming off a win and playing really well at this tournament because he's played this course well before. I think Tony Finau is a good pick.
All right. Well, yeah, and he's a good player. That's what you always say. He's a good player. Well, if they're on the PGA Tour, they're pretty good. I'm going to go with one of my favorite Koreans, Sun Jae-im.
I mean, good God. You and the Koreans. Hey, you might hit it one of these weeks. You might.
But I only deal with the South Koreans. I don't mess around with the North Koreans.
Yeah, I see that. I was going to take Ricky Fowler because for some reason I felt like it, but I'm going to go with Colin Morikawa this weekend. I think he's getting ready to charge into the PGA with a head of steam. I just like him on good golf courses that require a lot of precision and a good putter. So that's what this course is. You have to be accurate off the tee and you have to putt well. So give me Colin Morikawa.
All right, and I'll finish up with Max Homa. We'll see old Max, see if he can get it going this
Max
weekend.
was good out west, but since he's come to the Eastern time zone, he's kind of disappeared there, QB.
Okay, well, we'll see what he does this week. Chris from Cottondale on the Titan Mar text line says, athletic equals explosive. I agree with your athlete and athletic thoughts. Yeah, it's there's two different things there. It's just funny to me when people are looking at recruiting and he's a great athlete. Again, all that dude does is run routes. Can he dribble a basket? Can he shoot? Can he run track? Can he do anything else? God. Then you tell me. We got another text here. This is for you, JC, on the Titan Mar text line from Jim. He says, JC, right now, out of the rookie quarterbacks that were taken in the draft, who do you think has the best rookie season?
C.J. Stroud. Even though he plays for Houston, I think that division. Look, I think C.J. Stroud I've said this. He was my favorite quarterback going into the draft. I love Bryce Young more, but as far as I think who's going to be better, in his first rookie year season. I think CJ Stroud's the guy. CJ Stroud, as did Bryce Young, by the way, just lit up the Georgia Bulldog defense. And they had wide receivers, and that helped them. But these guys had to make those passes against premier players, the best defense they saw all season in both seasons. When Bryce Young was tearing Georgia down with Williams and Mechie, and C.J. Stroud was tearing Georgia down with Harrison. And just imagine if Ohio State had Njigba in that game. And by the way, Seattle stole Njigba. I think that's going to be a great player for them. But just think if Ohio State had Njigba to go along with Harrison, they would have beaten Georgia by 2 touchdowns and gone and won the national championship last year. And if Harrison didn't get hurt, I still say that would have happened. But listen, that's the answer to the question. I'm going with CJ Stroud. QB, before I go, I want to add one more thing. How about our Rays? 24-6, first in the AL East. And the Rays last night beating the Pirates, who are, by the way, 20-10, first in the NL Central. So, you had 2 division leaders last night playing in Tampa, and you had all of about 14,000 fans at the game. Now, we can go.
What's Pittsburgh's record right now?
How about 20-10, first in the NL Central? 20-10.
When's the last time they were in first place? When Willie Stargell and We Are Family was playing?
John Milner and Bill Madlock and Omar Marino. The Rays had 10,000 folks in the building last night against the Pittsburgh Pirates, who are the Central Division leading Pirates, coming off just an awful season last year. And look at them right now, 20-10. Look at the Rays, though, man. This story is great, 24-6. And my Yankees are cellar dwellers right now with nobody healthy at all, except Harrison Bader did come off the DL. He'll be playing soon, but it's just the same old story for the Yanks. So I'm on the Braves bandwagon for the time being, and I'm happy to do it.
All right. So where are the Rays going to end up moving to? I think Orlando wants them.
Yeah, that lease ends, I think, after next season. There's so many opportunities out there. Nashville is pushing hard for a baseball team. I would not be surprised if Nashville ends up if we end up with the Nashville Rays, unless Tampa and Hillsborough County can get their act together, because they simply cannot continue to exist, I don't think, playing in that in St. Petersburg in Pinellas County with 10,000 fans showing up. But again, I don't think it's a fan issue. It's more of a geography issue, and people may disagree with that, but just go try living in Tampa, working all day, and then asking yourself if you're up for driving down 275 for an hour to go watch a baseball game on a Tuesday night when you got to come back to work the next morning at 9 o'clock and drive through traffic. The answer is hell no. You have to make it easier for the fans to show up.
But JC, it's no different than when people live out in Dallas and they have to drive to Arlington to watch the Rangers play.
Yeah, but the Rangers, I mean, okay, that's fair, but this is.
I mean, pretty much almost. I bet majority of the ballparks are 40 minutes, 30 minutes outside of the major cities. Now, there's a ton of them downtown, but I mean, look, I just don't. I mean, maybe if they build the ballpark over there,
Arlington's
Ybor City, or well, I agree with that.
It's a dump.
But I'm just saying. Do you think the fans would show up if they built a damn baseball stadium right next to Raymond James?
I think they would have better than 10,000 on a Tuesday night. And I also think, you brought up the Rangers. They had 20,000 in their building last night. The Dallas Metroplex is 2.5 times the size of Tampa St.
Okay, that was a bad example. I'm just talking about, think about the Redskins. Okay, we're talking football. It's different. But it's not like it's in downtown D.C.
No, they don't draw well. They liked it better when it was at RFK. They also liked it better when they had the Indian on the helmet and they had the right uniforms. I don't know what this video game team is they have in Washington right now. It's some sort of video game they're putting out there on the field. It's a joke. That team is not the Washington Redskins. The Washington Redskins are the NFL team. This thing we got going on, the Commanders with their ridiculous uniforms, is awful. And the stadium sucks. I mean, that was a mistake, but he did it because the land was cheap. He cut a deal. He didn't have to pay a lot for it. And look at the money he's about to make by selling that team. But it doesn't do anything for the fan base. And here, I'll say one more thing. The Miami Marlins are worse. Their fans, if you want to make a big deal about the fans, Miami's got a stadium that's actually down in Miami where the old Orange Bowl used to be, and they do worse than the Tampa Bay Rays. So maybe there is something to that, but the Rays win. The Marlins don't win. And so I don't know.
Yeah. Well, all right, JC. Well, you've been on your soapbox, so
well,
we appreciate you raising hell today.
Not really raising hell.
I got one question because somebody asked me this yesterday as well. I'm gonna ask you. I don't know who's going to have the first pick in the draft next year, but are you taking Drake May? I think is Drake May eligible? Let's just say he is eligible for the draft. I don't know if he is or not.
I'm taking
Would
him.
you take Caleb Williams or Drake May?
I think just depends on what your coaching staff wants. I think either one you can't lose with either one, depending on the talent. Look, the Cardinals did a great job trading down. They got so many picks for next year, including a first-round draft pick, that if they don't win, that could be a team that's looking for somebody. Even though Kyler Murray's signed, he signed for the Grand Canyon. But the point is that Drake May, Caleb Williams, I don't think you can lose with either one of these guys. We'll see how their seasons go this year, but both players will have their teams at the top of their conferences, and both teams, if they have a little luck, will be in the discussion for the playoff, in my opinion. I think North Carolina could do that, and I think Southern Cal could certainly do that playing in the Pac-12. And in year 2 with Lincoln Riley, see, and Kimmy, this is what gets Gator fans so upset. They see what Sonny did at TCU in year 1. They see what Lincoln Riley is about to do in year 2 at USC. They want the same kind of thing here at Florida. They want quick, fast turnarounds.
Well, again, we don't have time. This is a time for another show. Caleb Williams, it was the difference maker.
He was good.
The quarterback was a unbelievable college quarterback. I think he got drafted in the 7th round, but he knew how to win games.
You talking about Max? You talking about Max Duggan?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, watch how he played. He elevated everybody else. All right, JC, we got to get to Scott Carter.
Okay. All right. Sorry about that. All right,
have
guys,
a good day. That's JC. Join us on the Titan MR hotline. Take a quick time out. Come back. We'll be joined by Scott Carter from FloridaGators.com.
We want to take this moment to thank our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our premium sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, the only official injury and accident law attorneys of the Florida Gators. Peaceland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. Comfort Temp, comfort is our business, peace of mind is our promise.
Campus USA Credit Union.
QC Kinetics, live pain-free with QC Kinetics. Dave & Buster's, eat, drink, play, and watch. Our gridiron sponsors are Auto ER, UF Bookstores, Celebration Point Town Center, Chris Doring Mortgage, Silverback Concrete Co., Ruse Ogre State Farm Insurance, Doreen Wibby, Realtor Caldwell Banker, MM Parish. Our touchdown sponsors are Adams Ribs, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Gator Bait Media, Okido America, Style Cuts, Ironwood Golf Course, Big Mills Cheesesteak, McDonald's of Gainesville, 84 Lumber, Tropical Smoothie Cafe, Aver and Smith, Dowling Signs, Baker's Sporting Goods, Silver Cube Billiards and Sports Bar. If you're interested in promoting your business on the show, call Freddie at 352-284-3733. If you like what we're doing here, make sure to follow us and support the businesses that support us.
Hi, Steve Spurrier here. You know, making a reservation at my restaurant is easier than a Saturday afternoon homecoming game against Vandy. You don't have to call or email. Just go to spurriers.com, hit the reservation button, pick a date, a number of guests, and a time. It's so simple, I can do it. In fact, I just did. Maybe I'll see you tonight.
Welcome back to the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Celebration Points, where the Gators go to celebrate. With premium brands like Regal Cinemas, The Keys, Dave & Buster's, Palmetto Moon, Starbucks, Visor's Rooftop, and the HBC's restaurant, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill, the #1 celebrity polished casual restaurant in America. We'll see you at Celebration Point, where the Gators go to celebrate. We're going to head to the Titan MR hotline, and we're going to talk to one of the best writers in America for FloridaGators.com, Scott Carter. How you doing, my man?
Shane, doing well, buddy. It's weird. I had a dream the other night that the last time I saw you was at a gymnastics in Fort Worth. That's weird.
I believe that was a true statement. That wasn't a dream. That was reality.
It wasn't. Okay.
Yeah. So I forgot about that. Yeah. You walked up there to my mezzanine seats that Mary Howard got me for the gymnastics meet. And unfortunately, I didn't get to see what happened Saturday. Obviously, I followed it on Twitter a little bit. But, boy, another great year by the gymnastics girls, and just came up a little short to the Sooners once again.
Yeah, they just felt, like you said, a little short, but I just that will be a well, I'm glad you clarified it because I couldn't figure out if that was a dream or real. So it was real. Okay. So
It was real. It was definitely real. Hey, Scott, were you over in Jacksonville last night, or did you cover the game from afar?
Yeah, I did not make the trip over there last night. I was there over the weekend here. But obviously a good night for the Gators. I mean, they continued their dominance of FSU. I think that's 22 out of the last 26. But the thing that really caught my attention, Shane, was, if you look at this team, I think the biggest question mark all year has really been, can the bullpen get it together and in the postseason when it's such a crucial part of the team. And last night, I mean, they pitched 9 shutout innings when the starter really struggled. And that was a good sign for Kelvin O'Sullivan's team right now, where they are in the season, man.
Yeah, they had some dominant performances over the semis in the last few years. Scott, when you look at this team, let's just kind of look forward here in the next couple of weeks, super regionals, all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Is this team as good as some of the teams that Sully's had, or what? As you said, I know there's some question marks there in the bullpen, but how would you rate them? Let's just start offensively at the plate compared to some of his more recent teams.
Well, I think offensively, it's one of the best teams he's ever had. I think when you have a couple of really top-level professional prospects and Wyatt Langford and Jack Caglione in your offense, I mean, that's going to make your offense go. Both of those guys are excellent players. And you got veterans like BT Rybel and, a lot of newcomers, Tyler Shelnutt's contributing. It's really a team that built offensively for the game that's emerged really the last couple of seasons. Offensive numbers are up. They tweaked the baseball and it's flying out of the ballpark again. So, and this Gators team is kind of built for that. I mean, Jack Caglione, who leads the nation in home runs, he hit his 26th last night over in Jacksonville. That ties the program record. So he's got plenty of time to break that record. And then you look at other pieces of it, Shane. I mean, I think their starting rotation, it's not as consistent as, let's say, that 17 team that won it with Alex Faedo, Brady Singer, and Jackson Coar. I think the arm talent's there, but again, you've got to be consistent in the postseason, and I think they're still looking for some of that. Brandon Sproat definitely had a great outing last week against Missouri. That's a positive sign. And then it kind of goes to that bullpen that we just talked about in the intro. When they won a national championship, the one thing they had was Michael Byrne as a closer. He was kind of lights out, set the program record for saves that season. And this year, he's tried a lot of different pieces. I think Brandon Millie's emerged as that closer, but they've got to get some of those middle guys more consistent. So that's why last night was such a promising development because, Blake Purnell and some other guys who haven't been consistent this year stepped up. So I think, to answer your question directly, I think, this team has talent on par with some of his best teams, but the consistency in the bullpen is the one thing that has been lacking.
Yeah. A couple of Facebook Live questions here brought to you by Melvin Law. Greg says, with this day and age of streaming, how was the baseball game not televised last night?
Yeah, that was this game was one that was originally rescheduled from weather earlier in the year. And they flip back and forth every year. One year, Florida is kind of responsible for the media part of it, the streaming. And the next year, Florida State. Well, this year was Florida State's turn. And the ACC network and Florida State, I guess, they just didn't either want it streamed or didn't plan for it streamed. I don't know all the details, but that's where it was left. So it was unfortunate because, you'd like to see every matchup between those schools streamed. And it's so unusual now. I mean, you know how it is, Shane. We've all gotten used to just being able to watch all this stuff now. 5-6 years ago, that wasn't the case, but now we're programmed to. So when something's not on, it kind of disrupts things. So I understand where the question comes from, but it was more of an ACC Florida State situation on this one.
Gotcha. Dan asked here, Scott, Florida's ranked in the top 5 in baseball, and there's talk about them not hosting a super regional. Is this possible?
I mean, I think anything's possible with still Vanderbilt on the schedule, in the final home series of the year. I think right now, they're going to host a regional and probably all the way through if they can finish strong. But, there's still quite a bit of baseball left. So they have some tough games. It's a really strong season across the country. And the SEC, as we know, is loaded every year. So I think the best thing that Florida can do is just go out there and take care of it on the field and erase any doubts. But as of today, I think from what I've read and kind of looking at the field, I feel pretty confident that they're in the top 8 seed.
Yeah, I agree with you. We got a text here on the Titan More text line from Larry. He wants to know, Scott, in your opinion, I know it's still early, but is Jack Caglione the best baseball player you've ever seen at Florida?
Ooh, boy, that's a good question. I mean, he is definitely the best two-way player I've ever seen. I mean, whenever you watch someone and you just see something different, I had this talk recently with somebody else. Like when I covered Major League Baseball, I'll never forget Josh Hamilton was the top prospect for the Rays. It was in 2003, and this was before all of his troubles off the field and before he kind of resurrected himself. But I remember being at the batting cage, and Lou Piniella was in his first year there. And Lou Piniella at this point had been in baseball for 45 years. And he's watching this kid. I just remember him turning to a couple riders and saying, that sounds different. And you could tell the excitement just of a veteran baseball guy, like watching this kid. He was 19 at the time. Something was different. That's how I kind of feel when I watch Jack Caglione. Just something different about him. I mean, he can throw about 98, 99. He can hit the ball out of any park. He's just a big, strong, natural kid. So it's going to be fascinating to watch next year. He's going to go into the season as the potential number 1 pick in the draft. And it's going to be those questions that, baseball's opened up to this in recent years more, letting guys try to be two-way players. Brendan McKay from Louisville a few years ago, obviously Ohtani in the majors. So he's one of those guys that just makes us wonder, like, what could this guy be? But he's the best two-way guy. I mean, whenever I think about baseball, natural talent, at Florida, I mean, he's got to be the best two-way player since Brad Wilkerson at Florida, for sure.
Yeah, that's who I was going to bring up, Wilkerson.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's more athletic and just a bigger, stronger. I guess that's just, I mean, back in those days, nobody looked like he looks. I mean, Wilkerson didn't look that athletic, but he was a really good athlete.
Yeah.
Scott, let's switch gears to the draft. Obviously, the Gators got 6 players drafted, others signed free agent contracts. Did anything surprise you? I mean, we all knew Anthony was going to go in the first round. We just didn't know where. But did any of the other picks surprise you?
There's 2 little surprises for me. The biggest was that Gervon Dexter jumped ahead of Osiris Torrance in the second round. I thought Osiris was kind of a lock to go ahead of Gervon. And I mean, there wasn't much difference in their pick. I think only 6 or 7 spots. But, that just tells you that it was more about Gervon, I think, than anything else. And you and I have talked about this before. While his production at Florida wasn't necessarily what we expected, you just knew that once he got into the draft process and the combine, he had all those physical traits that NFL people love in a big defensive lineman. He's big, athletic, he leaned up, and he got double teamed a lot at Florida, so they're drafting Gervon Dexter on potential, a lot like the Colts did with Anthony Richardson. So that was one surprise, and the other one was a very pleasant surprise. I was glad to see Amari Burney got drafted. I mean, here was a guy. There were 9 Gators invited to the NFL Combine, and guess what? Amari Burney was not one of them. And I thought if you looked at Florida's defense last year, just base it strictly on production and the kind of season he had, you can make a case he was as good as anybody on that side of the ball. He was a lot, he was involved in a lot of key plays, and I thought really had his best season. And Amari's a good guy, so he's going to get a chance as a 6th-round pick with the Raiders, and we'll see what he does with it. But otherwise, I don't think much surprised me. Those two were the biggest, Shane.
Yeah, the Osiris is a guy. When you're a guard is totally different than tackles, but he's a guy that, in my opinion, he's going to be a minimum 10-year vet. They know what he can do. I thought he would have gone a little bit higher too, but you're exactly right about Dexter. It's all on potential, because with his size and how he can run at that size, those people fall in love with it. And he was pretty good in the combine and then the personal workouts and stuff. What can you tell us about the Moten kid that we got from Michigan, the safety in the transfer portal? He has some Florida ties, correct?
He does. His father played at Florida back in the mid to late 80s. Ron Moten, he was a defensive end, edge rusher. Had some moments with the Gators. He was also involved in other stuff. Had a kind of a meaty, I don't know what you would say, a turbulent career and to some degree, but he was a good player, got a chance with the Eagles, and he stuck there for a while, got hurt. And then, of course, I think he stayed up in New Jersey and developed a career in law enforcement. But RJ, his son, is a senior from Michigan, a safety. And I mean, obviously, this is a nice pickup for Florida because that's a position of need with Trey Dean and Rashad Torrance moving on. And they don't have a lot of experience back there. So you add a fifth-year senior graduate kid back there who played at a big-time program in Michigan, which, had a really good defense. So I think it was just a kind of, Billy Napier's talked a lot about making sure you fill needs specifically when he dips into that portal. And I think RJ Molden is a perfect example of that. He comes in and, he's going to be a player that should be able to move right into the lineup and be an impact guy his first year. And, I don't know what that's going to end up looking like in production, but he's got the experience and stuff where he's going to be ahead of the curve of all the newcomers in terms of, knowing the game and the experience.
All right, Scott, before we let you go from the transfer portal, I can't keep up with it. So with him coming from Michigan, he's allowed to play right away. If you go from SEC to SEC, you have to try to get a waiver to play. Is that correct? And then do you see the Gators bringing any more portal guys in? And what's that time span that if they're going to do it, when's it got to be done by?
Yeah, that's correct on your SEC. The Gators, I think, will definitely bring some more players in. I think there's a spots for 4 or 5 more. They're looking at receiver, probably another offensive lineman. Billy Napier's talked about quarterback. I don't know if that's going to happen or not. But as far as the timetable, Shane, obviously, if they're going to transfer and enroll in Summer A, it would have to be in the next, 10 days or so. But most of the guys come in Summer B, so that would be around late June, early July. So, there's still some window there. They're still working there. Florida's kind of been quiet compared to some other schools, but I think a lot of that is by design, and we'll see what they have in store. But, it is hard to keep track of because, once the regular portal season ends, the spring portal opens from April 15th to April 30th. So that just closed Sunday. So now it's about where a guy's landing. So they've stopped entering the transfer portal. Now it's okay. Where's the cards going to end up in the deck? So that's kind of what we're waiting on. But I do expect that there will be a few more additions to the Gators roster.
Yeah, Frank here asked before we get you out here, tighten them our text line. It's referring to softball. They've had somewhat of a disappointing year. Scott, do you think they beat the semis tonight, and how do you think they end up in postseason play?
Well, right now with where they are, I mean, they're going to get into the postseason. It's probably going to be a year where they do have to travel. Somebody asked about baseball earlier. I think baseball is in a lot better shape than softball, obviously. This is a team that, if Florida softball and followed it under Tim Walton, I think, the pitching just isn't quite on the level that we've seen over the years. And I think that's why they are where they are in the SEC. I know he's got a couple of big-time pitching recruits coming in next season. So I don't expect it to be a long-term issue, but for 2023, I think they're a program that, they're lacking a little bit in the pitching department. And now it's just a matter, okay, you get into the postseason, as we all know, anything can happen. They had to go up to Virginia Tech last season in the Super Regional. Didn't really expect them to advance, at least I didn't. And they did and made it to College World Series. So they're going to need a similar run this season. I think it'll come down to, can they get enough high-quality pitching for that to happen?
Yeah, doesn't really matter. It seems like in some of these sports, and you've seen in the hockey playoffs and stuff now, it doesn't matter what you do in the regular season. Get it done in postseason. Scott, good stuff as always, my man. We appreciate your time, bud.
All right, Shane, have a good one, bud.
Yep, that's Scott Carter joining us on the Titan MR hotline, and we appreciate him and JC joining us. Ruse Ogre State Farm Office is a team of dedicated insurance professionals ready to help life go right with the right insurance options for you and your family. Visit ogreinsurance.com. Give them a call at 352-240-1779. Again, tonight, if you missed it, Gators sweep Florida State in baseball. Florida State will be in Gainesville tonight at 6 p.m. Eastern time, I believe, is first pitch for softball. So I hope you enjoyed today's program. Make sure you have all your friends and family follow our programs on all the different platforms out there. And we appreciate you taking time to chime in and listen to our program. Have a great day, folks, and we'll see you tomorrow. Take care.